Bless you. Bless you. I'm just gonna start moving over here.
Hey. Pretty good.
You're over here.
My wife's like, no, we don't.
I'm not sure right now.
There's a polo.
Hi, I mean,
Yeah. You do the.
I'm married, so that'll be easy.
So I would remember.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just feel. I go to
American, I went to the museum down in,
He's still.
have the same
No, I'm not.
Oh, Arlo.
No, I moved here 4 years ago.
Ready?
Where you going? Like,
Oh, you're rushing around there.
on Friday.
Oh, I was gonna say.
It actually came back on. There are people coming in, no one.
Using
But they can't figure out what's wrong with it, it's too hot.
Sometimes.
Not that, not as what you know.
But I figure it is. I think that's.
Employee safety and productivity are paramount in today's workplace. One of the more difficult.
You guys seem so far away
Yeah, I
that.
know. Here we are. Megan, you ready?
Give me one
Okay.
second.
Let me know.
Did Jeremy tell you we're not meeting in the morning? No. Or, I mean, besides the tonight. Perfect.
Ready?
Oh, look.
Okay, thank you for coming. We will call to order the Shell Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District Board meeting for Tuesday, July 9th. And before we go to roll call, I'd like to introduce Felipe, our new trustee. Felipe, welcome aboard.
Hi, everybody. My name is Felipe Ortiz, and then I'm happy to be here. So thank you, John.
Thanks. So with that, Megan, we'll have roll call. He's
President,
been sworn in already, so we're
Yes.
good to go.
President Pena,
Present.
Vice President Gitron,
Present.
Secretary Coons, Treasurer Waitman,
Present.
Trustee Downs, Trustee Figueroa,
Present.
Trustee Gardner,
Present.
Trustee Larson, Trustee Ortiz,
Present.
Trustee Ross, and Trustee Walker.
Here.
Thank you, President Pena.
Okay. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Yeah, well, there's one over
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please excuse our back here. I know this is a little bit different sitting in here, so.
They're making-
not ignoring them.
No, not at
They're
all.
drawing pictures of you, John, like
Yeah.
I see it.
Okay, we'll move on to confirmation of agenda. Any changes or additions or deletions?
Move confirmation.
Second.
Or anything from staff?
No changes from staff.
Trustees?
I would like to request that one of the item D on the consent agenda be pulled and moved to like old business. Just for the minor change suggestion.
So you want full item D for discussion?
Correct.
Okay, we will add that to business. New business, item number 5. Anything else? Now there is a motion in a second, all in favor? Motion carries. We'll move on to public comment. Megan, any public comments on non-agenda items?
We do have a public comment on non-agenda items from Dale Wiseman from CSEA.
Dale Wisman, where's our meeting?
Way up there.
You get to go stand in front.
It's out of sorts, I guess, because of the AC in the other room. Is that what record heat. I'm Dale Wisman, been in the desert for almost 30 years. Used to run a nonprofit for the Boys and Girls Club, and I've been to the CSA labor rep for the last 20 years, starting on my 21st year. Our contract is now 9 days expired. We've been 9 days without a contract, and it's record heat. We're not that far apart. We're apart on 3 things. We're apart on 5% for the entire unit. And the first year, kind of this catch-up COLA versus 5% just for the vector techs. We're apart on how we do our health and welfare benefits, which is instead of having it limited to 1 year, we'd like to talk about it across a 3-year period. There's still a cap on it for the district cost, by the way. It's just how we structure that. And we're apart on Juneteenth. That's it. Those are the only things we're apart on. But we are significantly apart on those things. Our next negotiation is on Thursday. The total cost of what we're apart on is less than you'll be approving for the UACs tonight, which I saw in your board pack. It's about $26,000. That's about what we're part of. It's not that much across a nearly $4 million labor contract. What's actually happening is that we are in the 3rd generation of CSA leadership. The first generation was in 1984 when we organized around some of the difficulties in. The second generation was in the early 2000s because of the abuses of an administration that were so bad that you covered the guy's name up on your building here. That's how toxic that name is around here. In 2008, we wrote a historic deal that included literally the salary schedules for everybody. And not even just us, but including others that were based on the salary schedule that were developed at our table, the CSA table. Job descriptions, Vector 1, 2, and 3 pathway, all that was developed in 2008. In December of 2023, just about 6 months ago, a brand new group of executive board members for CSA were elected. They were younger, more college educated, and more economically vulnerable than any we've ever seen come through in CSA. And that's our current group of members, and that's your employees. The ones that are struggling with homeownership, who came to age after 2008, some were born after 9/11. The post-pandemic era, where the first CSA member lost in the state, was, was Fernando Fregoso, whose name is also on the bill here. He was our first CSEA statewide member that died just a few days after the schools were shut down. This is a historic negotiations because we're really trying to reset what we're gonna be doing for this new generation coming forward. We are not that far apart. That's why it's taking so long. It's because we've been trying to make sure that we're covering all the bases. It's been an incredible cordial negotiations. The last two times we had generational shifts in CSEA, it was also accompanied by severe labor strike, including in 2008, where the district was nearly shut down. I hope that does not happen this time, but that is not to say that we're not going to relinquish our position, because what we're asking for is something that you can afford, and we're only about 25 grand apart. I want to just say something very briefly about Juneteenth. The idea that operationally we can't offer a Juneteenth holiday, putting aside the fact that who's going to pay for it, it costs about 1/3% in terms of the salary increase, 1/3%, a little more, but not much. The idea that you can't operationally do it has been used by Mississippi and Alabama for years, and it's still used by Mississippi and Louisiana, except that in order to grant the Martin Luther King holiday back in the day, they said, we're gonna also make it a General Lee holiday. But for a better part of 40 years, remember Reagan passed the MLK holiday in 1983. For the better part of 40 years, the idea that operationally you couldn't offer Juneteenth was used to hide a much more racist idea behind it. We can offer Juneteenth. We just did July 4th. There's already procedures in place. It's a hugely important holiday. You're the only special district that don't offer it. There's only 2 cities that don't offer it, and all the school districts offer it. We're down to 2 cities, the Coachella Valley and Mosquito Basin District. Don't be those guys that don't offer Juneteenth. It's embarrassing. It's particularly embarrassing for young people and the African Americans we have working at the district, and their multiracial, biracial kids that work in the district. We should not be held apart on Juneteenth. It's not a big cost item, and it's important that we honor that, because it's the first new federal holiday since Reagan passed his and signed that one back in MLK Day. We hope to have a very good negotiations on Thursday. There are other issues, but we can part them off to committees. We're able to get to agreement. I would like to see this 3rd generation, unlike the previous 2, not be accompanied with the labor strike that the first 2 created. And I also want to honor the people who are here tonight. We have some people on Zoom and some people in this audience that started working this morning at 12:45, 12:30 in the morning. And there's some that are going to be working at 1:30 in the seat to continue to fog. This is a difficult job. They deserve your respect and consideration for that little bit more to settle this contract. And I appreciate you guys listening to us, and we really look forward to productive negotiations on Thursday.
Thank you, Dale, and we did let you run over just because.
Yes, I know you did. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I won't be back for another 3 years.
President Pena, we do have another person wanting to talk in the waiting room.
Okay. And maybe you have the time.
Joe, are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
you-
Yes, we
hear
can
me?
hear you.
Thank you. President Pena, board members, I'm Joe McKenzie, and I think you have probably, hopefully read some of the information that I have emailed to you. I am a director, as my title says down there, of Vista Irrigation District, which is located in North San Diego County. And I'm also a director on the California Special Districts Association. This is the election season, and I am running for my seat. Just to give you a quick background as to the southern region, Southern Network is composed of the 6 southern counties, and there are 3 elected board members from those 6 counties. So there's 3 of us. I'm in the south part, San Diego. We have another director who is a Costa Mesa Sanitation District Director, and she's in Costa Mesa, Orange County. And then we have a general manager who is located in the Pinyon Phelan area of North San Bernardino. So we have basically a good broad spectrum of our board members. And like I said, I'm running again. I think my leadership and my ability to work with people, including legislators and other board members, basically shows where we've been and come from in the last several years. I'm probably the fourth longest serving board members. There's 3 others that have been on the board longer than I have. And we kind of make up the core. And we have, with all of our board members, there's 18 of us all together, we've been working very collaboratively to increase the substance of CSDA. We have a number of programs and seminars and webinars that we have instituted for the education and for the privilege of, giving you information as a director that you can't get off the internet necessarily. So we've come a long ways. When I came on, we had 7 employees. Today, our legislative committee is our.
Jill, you have 30 seconds.
Sure. So what I'm doing, I'm asking here for your vote. I don't know whether you have already voted or not, but I noticed it was not on the agenda, and the voting does end July 26th. And it's electronics. So whoever is your contact person, whether it's your board secretary, your GM, or your president, they are the ones that kind of control, and they have the information to be able to vote electronically. And I would appreciate your vote. I'd like to continue on. I've got a lot of other venues and ideas that we're working towards. We've started a national association. And just one real quick thing, what we have been able to do in the 2 years that we have created this association, we have about 12 states now that are members, but we have gotten legislators on both sides of the aisle to propose legislation that defines special districts. Special districts are not defined in any federal paperwork. So therefore, when that $1 billion comes down, we don't get to tag into it. And that's one of the things that we've worked towards. We're all upward. So like I said, I don't know whether you've already voted. And if so, I'm sorry to take up your time.
Thank you. Megan, anybody else?
That's it.
Agenda items? Okay, how about public comments on agenda items?
We don't have any on.
Okay, great. We'll move on to our first and only public hearing for the evening. It's for the benefit assessment. So I'll open the public hearing. And do anything.
Did you pull your item? Did you pull item D?
Oh, this is I think the public hearing for the assessment.
Yeah.
That's a different.
Okay. David, we'll give a staff report.
All right, thank you. So just a brief overview. Tonight is the public hearing for the continuation of the benefit assessment for fiscal year 24-25 that funds the district's mosquito fire ant, vector control, and disease prevention services and projects in the Coachella Valley. The notice of the public hearing was published in the Desert Sun on June the 30th, 2024. The rate of the proposed assessment rate for fiscal year 24-25 is $14.39 per single family equivalent. And in zone A and $7.19 in zone B. This is the same rate as fiscal year 23-24. The maximum rate the district can set is $26.34. At the June meeting, the board approved resolution 2024-08. That resolution approved the intention to levy the assessments for fiscal year 24-25. It preliminarily approved the engineer's report and provided for notice of the hearing of the assessment. This resolution, resolution 2024-009, this approves the engineer's report and orders the levy of the assessment at the rate of 14.39. The financial impact of setting the rate to 14.39 is 2.4 million. The recommendation is to accept and adopt resolution 2024-09, set an annual benefit assessment, and to properly finalize and adopt the assessment proceedings accordingly defined in proposition 218. That's
Any questions for staff? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2024-09.
So move.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second, any discussion? Not, do we have to do a roll call on the public hearing?
I believe so.
I think so.
Yes.
President Pena,
Yes.
Vice President Catrone,
Yes.
Secretary Coons, Treasurer Waitman,
Yes.
Trustee Downs, Trustee Figueroa,
Aye.
Trustee Gardner,
Aye.
Trustee Larson.
Yes.
Trustee Ortiz.
Aye.
Trustee Ross
Yes.
and Trustee Walker.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. We will now close the public hearing. We'll move on to announcements, presentations, and written communications. We have none. And we'll move on to the consent calendar as modified. I'll entertain the motion to approve items A, B, and C.
Ben, so you. Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to informational items. Any questions for staff there? Hearing none, we'll move on to our business session, which is old business item number 1. This is discussion and or approval to move the September board meeting. And Jeremy.
Yes, so this is up for discussion for the board. I think you're aware the CSCA is having their annual meeting here in Indian Wells this year. It coincides the same week as our board meeting. Many of our management staff will be attending the meeting as it's a good meeting. It's also local, so it's a good opportunity to take in that additional professional development. Wasn't quite sure how many of the board members would be attending, and so wanted to put up for discussion. Many of the sessions run till about 4:45, 5 o'clock each day, so it gets a little close to that, but wanted to put the board for the discussion that the proposed date is September 17th. But if that isn't what the board would like to do, we can still make it happen on the day that it's normally scheduled. We'll just accommodate it.
What's the proposed date again?
The 17th?
September 17th, I have a council meeting on the 17th.
Let me double check.
And when is the scheduled meeting right now?
10.
Yeah, I've got council meeting on that second too.
All right.
So I guess I'll be here on my birthday on the 10th.
Your birthday's on the 10th?
Yeah.
Could we do
You
it
could.
Monday, the 16th?
Monday the 16th.
September.
September 16th.
I could.
You could,
I'm open.
you're open? How about everybody else's schedule, 16th?
You know, I left my phone in my car. I have no idea.
I'm away the whole middle of September, but Doug Walker has agreed to chair the finance committee for me.
Okay,
I'm open either day.
okay. Let's shoot for the 16th, maybe.
That looks like majority.
Yeah.
You'll send a calendar.
Yeah, we'll
Yes.
send a calendar invite out.
We're moving it from the 10th to the 16th.
Yeah.
Correct.
I usually don't like to do Monday meetings, but I'll make it work.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
And we don't have an August meeting, right?
We are currently dark unless something comes up. So yeah, we're done in August.
So I'll entertain a motion to move the September board meeting to September 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion in a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Excuse me, Jeremy, you still need to know who wants to attend the conference.
I believe registration, Megan, is still open for that. do you
It
know?
is still.
Yeah, so if you are wanting to attend the CSDA conference, please let Megan know, we
Yeah,
can get that.
Megan, you
going.
can send that out.
Yes.
Okay,
Is there an agenda online?
There is, yeah, if you go online to the CSDA, they have a annual meeting that has the schedule and everything already up. Okay.
I'll attach the
Yeah,
agenda.
attach the agenda. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to new business. Item number one is discussion and or approval of purchase chemical control products. And Gray. Yeah.
I like this new position. I turned and then he's just talking to me. I don't know.
Okay, good evening, members of the board. I'm here seeking your approval for the 2024-2025 fiscal year control products for our programs. This include our Ready for Fire Ant, mosquito, and Wellpet products. The amount you see there is an increase from our estimated amounts from our current price or cost for the price exercise. We added a 50% increase due to inflation, just to cover any additional costs. So that's the reason why there's to do from the control products now versus what we're asking for. And that's it.
Questions?
How do you base the 50%? Do you see the other groups
Uh,
going up by that much?
It's based on a conversation that I'm having with manufacturers, the sales individuals there, I recommended that we increase. Because we're seeing an increase in PVO and other costs.
Gosh, I wish I could call people on the phone and say, hey, just send me half again this much, huh? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, if there aren't any other questions, I'll entertain a motion. To approve.
Move approval.
Second. Motion is second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, David, you're up next. Discussion and approval of building safety and working condition improvements.
AC.
Yeah.
Just like this guy.
Just wanna let you know, I did not pray for any divine intervention. I didn't ask God to raise the temperatures up just to try and get this pushed through. Okay, so this project, we discussed it in the finance committee, so it's broken down into three areas. So I don't know if everybody knows where the shop or maintenance shop is in here in the district. We have two mechanics and they're working in like pretty hot conditions right now, muggy, and so the proposal that we have in the staff report is it's for insulation of the shop. So it's insulation of the walls, insulation of the ceiling. That portion of the proposal, that's 74,000. And then we also have a cooling portion of the proposal that includes like a commercial chiller unit and new duct work, and then installation of dampers to get out the hot air. We also have a video to show you what that looks like. And then the third one is putting down an epoxy floor, which is like 50,000. And when we're talking in the finance committee, we're talking about pulling that portion of the proposal and maybe coming back later on in the fiscal year once we see how these projects are going through. So do you want to put that video on just to show the mechanical? So I know in the staff report, it looks like I'm asking for a swamp cooler. I'm not actually asking for a swamp cooler. It's this is the unit on here.
Typical cooling applications are industrial environments with exhaust. Internal and or external heat gain can result in excessive temperatures in the space. The exhaust fans located in these types of facilities can make cooling with traditional methods challenging and cost prohibitive. Two-stage evaporative cooling can provide cost-effective temperature relief, resulting in a safer, more productive work environment. The cool tempered air enters the facility from the two-stage unit. The exhaust fans opposite of the evaporative units create a push-pull effect, allowing for the cooler tempered air to flow across the facility. Here's how it works. An indirect evaporative cooling module provides the first stage of cooling. A patented polymer heat exchanger separates the ventilation airstream from the vaporizer airstream, resulting in full sensible cooling without any added moisture. The second stage of cooling provides additional temperature depression through the adiabatic direct evaporative process. With the wide array of semi-custom options such as stainless steel construction, energy recovery, fan arrays, fan wall, direct drive plenum, backward incline, forward curb, special filtration, hot water coils, indirect gas-fired heating, chilled water coils, and direct expansion coils, the ESC series evaporative cooling unit can supply any of your industrial ventilation needs.
And the proposal is just for students.
Now, how do those work when we do get humid days?
What show is that, Ed?
They'll operate about the temperature in high humid days. Where this unit will stop producing cool air is when the humidity reaches 100%.
Is when what?
Humidity reaches 100%.
When it's really wet outside, humid, that's when these units.
We're not Florida, so we're not getting.
Or tropical.
But yeah, I know my personal swamp cooler stopped working at, we're at 25, maybe 30. So,
Or 70%?
yeah. So if that's my concern is if we're doing a somewhat antiquated technology that doesn't work well in humidity, are we spending good money? But if you say this will work in humid conditions, as humid as we get here, which is not terrible, not Florida, but well, that's my concern.
You know where, I guess my question would be is, where here in the valley, specifically the east end, is the same application being used?
I agree.
That's a good question. I did stop at Costco over on Monterey and they have a swamp cooler system. It's not the ESC 8 that's proposed here, but that's the type of system they're using there. They keep the doors closed. They have a vent. They keep one door open, cracked to let the air cycle out. And it was about 2 weeks ago when I was there. It's a big difference from the outside temperature to the inside temperature. They did install some new doors, which were insulated, which is something that we're looking into as well to maintain that temperature within the shop.
So we brought this up in finance, because we thought it was pretty expensive for an evaporative cooler.
Yeah.
The key that I'm finding in the research I did between finance committee now is that, because it's a automotive industrial situation, you need that flow to remove exhaust gases when he's testing. So an air conditioning would be recycling those exhaust gases. This is the correct system to do that. Yeah, and then it's a 2-stage, I don't know what the heck that means, but that helps keep the humidity not an issue.
Because the shop for IAD, the shop for CBWD, and the shop for the city of Indio has something similar, I just don't know if it's this. And that would be the only, government, public agencies that has mechanics and people working in warehouses, so that's why I'm asking it. If it's working for them, which they've been doing it longer, will it work for our staff? At the end of the day, we just want them to work comfortably, obviously.
In our setting that, yeah, it would meet the needs. And just like Peter was indicating, we're not introducing any more moisture based on that technology. Air's coming in, it's getting knocked down, it's passing through that membrane, going through another membrane it's already cooled, so that's how we drop the temperature.
Have you had an opportunity to check with one of the agencies like Ben suggested to see what they are using, if they're happy with what they're using and how it compares? I mean, it sounds like it could be a very promising system. Keep the moisture outside, but
I haven't been able to make contact with agencies that Ben mentioned. I did stop at the, like I said, the cost for that on Monterey.
So what made you choose that specific model?
This model was recommended from Kia, who's an agency that we've been working with.
So the mechanical engineer came out and he looked at our shop. We were asking for recommendations on what to do, how to cool the shop, and this is the model that we came up with. And the pricing is government pricing, it's through CMAS, which is a cooperative purchasing. So all the costs is it's government pricing.
But the cost bugged us in finance, so we took out the floor, just to kind of, that's sticker shock. Took out the epoxy floor, we can do it later.
Is it just a roll
We
on?
couldn't do it until November, December anyway. It's too hot to do the floor now anyway, so.
So the total proposal on the staff report says 440,000. I added a little a 10% contingency on that. So taking off the epoxy flooring, the total project would be 346. Add 10% would be 381,000. So we would knock in 16,000 of the staff report. So if the recommendation would be to approve the project for the insulation in the cooling portion. 10% contingency.
Okay, well, what's that number,
Yeah,
381?
1,003. Rather than 440.
Okay, thank you. Your motion?
I'll make a motion, just a couple of things. I make a motion as recommended by staff. But just double check with the other public agencies to make sure we're making a good move. And then the other one is that the staff, because I can understand where that epoxy floor might be easy to keep the shop clean. Amongst other things, that this actually come back 6 months later to see where we're at the direction of our finance committee.
Yeah, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Yeah, motion second with those additions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to item number 3, the discussion and or approval of Desert Air proposed gas and electric package unit. There,
So this is an emergency purchase. It's a replacement of the unit that broke down, the package unit in the boardroom. And this unit is 24-year-old, so it needs replacing anywhere. The cost to repair it will be over $10,000, so it makes sense to replace rather than repair. The proposal includes removal and disposal of the existing unit, new equipment and installation. A crane will be rented by Desert Air for this work, and labor and parts include a 1-year warranty.
questions? You know, we're redoing the boardroom. Would this fit right into that?
Yeah, so
No other
we
additions?
also have another project, which is I think the finance committee will discuss it. That's down on board. We do have this Centrica project where it's going to replace all the HVAC units. Well, this one will be taken off that project.
Okay.
It's scheduled to be replaced.
Any other questions? Now, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Go ahead. Motion by Nancy, second by. Yeah, I'll second it. Okay. There's motion second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Move on to discussion and or approval of the emergency purchase of mosquito Delta-Side pesticide. Greg.
Yes, thank you. This is also an emergency purchase for adult side products. The last couple of months, we've sent in a search of fire detection throughout the valley. And we've been doing quite a bit of adult sighting. In doing that and seeing that there's a projected increase on the usage, we are proposing purchasing additional product just to cover our bases in the event that we need to continue to do these applications. This is just covering adult side products. Again, this is projecting or just anticipating an increase on applications to show that.
Okay, any questions for Greg? No, I'll entertain a motion.
Cost, 73,930.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion and second. Mr. Osprey, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 5, which is full consent item number 3.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I'm in favor of the proposal. I had a question for possible addition on a couple of the items that trustee is not listed. I'm interested in possible trustee attendance if it was appropriate. I was thinking, for example, on page 57, the Entomological Society of America, if trustee happens to have the entomological background, that being a possibility. And on page 58, there are a couple organizations involved with vector-borne diseases. And I was thinking something like Trustee Coons with his background in vector-borne diseases, that there might possibly be a trustee on occasion who would be appropriate to attend. But kind of depending on where we are as a district, where that trustee is, if they're available. I'm not saying they would have to. So, I'm suggesting that, a trustee be added to the people that can attend. Like the, Entomological Society, America on page 57, and then the, let's see. And this would be something that we worked, I think, talking with the general manager, along with the lab manager to determine whether it might be appropriate, like the Pacific Southwest Center of Excellence in Vector-Borne Diseases, or Society of Vector Ecology Annual Conference. I know I had an opportunity to attend that sometime in the past, and it was very informative to what we're doing. So I'd like to suggest we add those options to this list. So.
Any comments? I think it's a good point. Jeremy?
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, this year, as you know, Jennifer is president of ESA, so this is her annual meeting that's gonna be happening in Arizona, so having that trustee or two there support that effort, I'm sure would be appreciated, because I know she's put a lot of work into that, but yeah. We can add, so ESA, I caught that, Doug, and if there's some, Pacific Impact that meeting, especially for trustees that are on the research committee. A lot of that research that the district does support, does make it to those meetings, and also may be informative for those on that committee to, as we review proposals, but yeah, I'm fine with that. What is?
Is that requiring action or is it consensus?
Mhm.
They're requiring action or consensus?
Required.
Your recommendation, no action.
Well, I think we would approve it because we pulled it.
You removed it, you have to reapprove it.
Yeah, so we have to reapprove it. So we can reapprove it as amended.
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion. Second. Okay, motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Good catch there, Doug. Okay, we'll move on to committee and trustee reports. I don't have anything under executive committee. 5. Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met this afternoon at 4:30, had a very interesting meeting. We reviewed the check reports, CalCard, and as per normal, we probably had about half a dozen questions when we were probing. Some were small money, some were big money, like there was a capital expenditure in there for 108,000, which is a little unusual, and it actually is the purchase. If you've had chance, about 2 rooms over, there's a very nice big drone sitting in there. And there was 2 of those, plus the battery and everything else. So that part of the meeting, very, very good. We then went into looking at the finances, year to date, and David gave us an estimate of the year-end closing. No real change from what we said about a month ago. We're gonna come in with a pretty favorable figure. So we actually didn't want to probe into that. We actually spent a bit of time then to say, okay, with that favorable, where do we want to put the money? If you remember at budget time, we had a range of options, including prepaying CalPERS and looking at some of the big capital projects that were in front of us. So we actually spent probably about a quarter of the meeting looking at the big Centrica project. Most of this to date has fallen on David's, Jeremy's shoulders. It's coming in at about $4 million. It's made up of many, many different parts. We heard payback periods of pretty long period of time, like 15, 16, 17 years. And I would say that the finance committee was a little nervous at that size, and most of it falling on David's shoulders. It appears that Centrica will probably come and present to the board in September. That I don't think has been frozen, but that is the target. And what the finance committee is going to recommend or recommends now is that, after that presentation, that Mr. President, you, set up an ad hoc committee to support David, to go in there, do a lot of digging around. As I said, it's made up of, seems to be like a jigsaw puzzle, many different pieces. Electronic vehicle stations are in there. Revamping the boardroom, revamping of solar, many different things. And I would say the finance committee was uneasy at just marching forward without doing a very thorough deep dive. Because that money might be better going into CalPERS, or a major chunk of it more into CalPERS at 6.8%. David's looked at that and threw an item on the table. Perhaps we should go out and take some debt on, take $3 million on debt. I asked him whether the district has ever taken any debt on, and the answer was no. So I think if that was to be on the table, the trustees are gonna have to dig deep and see, is that the right direction? So I would heads up, look for Centrica in September, and then look at preparing a deep dive committee. The other thing we looked at was Jennifer's bailiwick, SIT. And Jeremy gave us a very good update of what's been happening in the last probably 3 or 4 months, not only in the district here, but what's happening in local districts, LA, etc. And the finance committee found it very useful and has asked Jeremy, working with Jennifer, to come back to the full board probably in a couple of months from now and give us an update. If you've looked through the finances, you will see that we have now set aside just about $2 million is the total figure by the end of the budget into the SIT bucket. Very little is being spent. I think the forecast is about $60,000 of expenditure planned for next year. So we've got a nice provisional set of money there if we need it, but we need to get more knowledge about where that is moving, what are the different options. Again, Jeremy came to the table, not just SIT, but the Wachovia, that apparently has now been approved. So I think the finance committee would like the board to get a better understanding of that $2 million sitting there. Okay. In terms of the total figure, we've the net income figure, which is really no change from last month. It's sitting at a nice healthy figure. We've asked again David to look at that and come back to the September board with a recommendation of how much should go to CalPERS, combined with Centrica, combined with SIT, etc. So it was a good discussion. All 3 members of the finance committee were there, and I thank both Doug and Trustee Larson. I will say that Trustee Larson is always a very good member to have on the finance committee. He digs deep every time. So thank you, Beto. Appreciate the help.
He always thinks outside the box.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And I would like to thank David again. I thought we kind of grilled it pretty hard for about 30 minutes. We grilled him on that 440,000 that, because like you, we thought, well, isn't evaporating coolers a 60-year-old technology? But he was able to answer most of our questions. So, but I think that's it.
Okay,
Mr. President.
any questions? Thank you. All right. Okay, we'll move on to item number C, trustee comments, request future agenda items, travel and or staff actions. There's the trustees. Okay. There we go.
Mike, the spirit of our newest board member, believe I, that, the finance committee is a standing committee. On the board, and the treasurer is elected. The other officers, and, usually has 3, and 2 other appointed members.
New board members always buy pizza.
I didn't get the memo, so I'm not gonna Jeremy.
For the employees too.
I'll blame Jeremy.
Okay, we'll move on to reports. Jeremy.
Yeah, just a couple of quick updates. we are in the thick of it as far as the season, so I wanna, thank staff, everybody absconded. But it is hot, as we all know, and they're out there, we have a very active season, so not only our field staff, but even our office staff are hot because it's hot. But, yeah, I do wanna thank, they're doing a great job, from the surveillance, the control. Our numbers are at an average level right now, so between the heat and our efforts, I think we're keeping tabs on them, but we have a lot of virus activity, so staff is working hard, and Jennifer and Greg will probably about later. Staffing wise, we have a lot going on, the golden handshake, this domino effect. And so we do have 2 new full-time vector control technicians that came on board, that one of them was here, Mario Cyprus and Ramon Rodriguez. So they're our new staff. We've taken on 5 new seasonal support that support our operations through the remainder of the season primarily. Public information manager, I'm still wearing that hat, but we're on the second round of interviews tomorrow. So I'm hoping by the next time we see each other's faces, we'll have a new public information manager. We have some great candidates, so I think we'll be looking good there. We are in a final stretch of hiring a new biologist. We had a lead technician position that was open that we're opening up internally, so it most likely will be an internal upstep for one of our staff. And then part of this fiscal year's budget, we put in 2 new lab assistants for the lab and also a human resource assistant for HR. So a lot going on with all of the folks that lead the departments, including HR, who's just staring at me. So she's tired about all this going on. But yeah, and then, so that's the staffing piece. I met with trustee Ortiz actually yesterday. We saw each other yesterday, so gave him a brief overview of a little bit about the district that she was familiar with as he came here, I think in November, which I think got him really interested with his boss, Assemblymember Greg Wallace. So it's good to talk to him, get his background. Let him know what he can expect from all of you guys and gentlemen, and what's expected of him.
Did you throw him in the mosquito tank?
Yeah, not yet. No, that's a second visit. No, but no, it was great to meet him, and I'm excited to work with him. And I think he's gonna be a great addition to the board. Drones, as you saw, those are on board. That's exciting. Staff got those up in the air last week, and it's quite impressive. And Rick, who was here, was our UAS coordinator, is really taking lead on that and working with our pilot, and they're doing, I think, a great job. I'm excited to have that new technology. It's going to really impact and grow that program. As we've been talking about Centrica, David, myself, and Ed were a part of a toggle session to kind of see what the numbers were and kind of get some feedback from us that might resonate with the board as they come in to present to you. So they're working on that. We've been having AC issues, as you know. We're trying to make our ACs work better. The project we're working on is our chiller for the lab. It's encased in a cinder block wall, which is a challenge, and that it's basically sitting in an oven. And so we're working to retrofit that so it works more optimally, because it does feed the system. We do all of our testing, and it's an important part of our program for the year. Couple other things. LAFCO vote was official. Dr. Bruce Underwood won that by a vote. So it was a tight race for the Eastern representative for LAFCO. That was a runoff election. So he was one of our former board members as well. A couple of other things. Part of our strategic plan is to build relationships with local organizations and leaders in our community, and also direction from the board at one point in time is Jeremy get out and meet and greet and make connections. So I've been dealing with that since we last met. We did our Indian Wells Lunch and Learn in June. That was something that Tammy and I kicked off last year. A lot of times we meet with council members and department managers, but the focus of this was to really infiltrate with staff, because a lot of staff in the cities get feedback from your residents, for our council members and our trustees about, I got mosquitoes, and now they know kind of more about what we're doing and where they can kind of divert people. So that was Indian Wells. So that was our last leg, I think, of that tour. Attended a couple of CBAG meetings, which is very informative. I haven't really been involved with that much, but public safety and energy sustainability piqued my interest because there were some things that I thought been looking for ways we can kind of collaborate or cross-pollinate with other agencies. And so from that, I attended those two, made a couple of public comments because there's a lot of movers and shakers in the community, and we can also educate them, make sure that the word out what's going on with mosquito control. But because of that, I'll be at Desert Hot Springs Library doing a water talk. I met Director Amber Duff from Mission Springs Water District, so I'll be out there talking about what we're doing for vector control. And then there's some other items with the Conservation Corps doing tire recycling that CVAG has been looking for ways to make that more impactful. Tires breed mosquitoes, so I reached out at that meeting to see how we could work together on that, as well as CVAG and the Water District. And I think most cities require for business license for landscapers to pass water conservation and scalping. And they're having a hard time funding that program. It's basically a virtual program, but I'd like to put our logo right next to that on what landscapers can do for mosquito control. So look for ways to be kind of work together and help fund that possibly, because they're not, it's only 40,000 a year and they're kind of looking for ways to fund that. And I think we have the resources that could help with that funding, doing it, part of it. Winter Rancho Mirage on the 20th, their city council approved the city ordinance, which basically outlaws any irrigation runoff, both going forward, but also for anything that's currently existing. So we're Greg and his team have been working with code enforcement with Rancho Mirage as kind of a test pilot to kind of how we can work with local communities, not as beating them with the stick, but how we can work collaboratively, but also use city ordinance and public health regulations to encourage that compliance on looking at ways to reduce urban runoff. So we can spend more time dealing with container breeders, things like that. Yes, and so I did go to council. I think about the council having that the wisdom to put a city manager on the board for a while, because I think it's really benefited. Not to say that you're not all great, but
It's okay.
he forces a hand at the city. When it comes to mosquitoes, we got the support Rancho Mirage.
Yeah.
But so again, went to Salton Sea Authority. It was an interesting meeting. Didn't have enough for a quorum, but I got up and talked about mosquito control. Half the board didn't know there was a mosquito issue at the Salton Sea, so I got invited back. And
They didn't know there was a mosquito issue.
from what I was told, it was from in some of our Imperial Irrigation District that they were surprised that we had mosquito issues. So I'm gonna go back, reach out to our Imperial County,
All you have to do is drive your car. to
yes,
Imperial.
and so, but again, I was a little bit surprised. I think the CV portion was aware, but I'm gonna go back and talk to them
There's
about
something
that.
in the air in Imperial County, but
Yeah, probably when it's back in this side of the valley. Other than that, last two things, I did a tour with Valley Sanitary District. I met Jason DeForn, who's the GM there at the CSTA Ledge Day. We hit it off. He did a collaborative tour between Valley Sanitary and Desert Rec District and invited CSTA. That's been something that we've been wanting to do, is bring our legislators in, our legislative staff, and hype special districts. So this was kind of a mini version of that. So myself, Megan, towed along and learned a lot about Valley Sanitary District. Still trying to figure out how we can connect on that. They make the water go to the Salton Sea a little bit. But Desert Rec District has been working really great with our community liaisons, and our public outreach, kind of outdoor recreation and mosquito prevention and bites has been a nice collaborative, and so we're gonna keep trying to foster that. And then last but not least, get fired up for school. Assemblymember Wallace is hosting which I believe Trustee Ortiz is the spearhead for that office. I am. District is donating backpacks for that. That's gonna be in Thousand Palms for the community there. So we'll be having Senator Blue with the backpacks, and there'll be a series of other agencies there providing some resources for our students going back, and a way to reach out in that community and support our other community stakeholders. And that is it.
what's the date you're at the VHS library?
It is on July 25th at 5 p.m. I heard it's a lively crowd, so I'm gonna be ready.
Yeah,
Yeah, talks about mosquitoes, watching the news with the hurricane, it just hit Texas. Well, they're having some real problems with mosquitoes down there.
Yep. Big ones too. That's it.
Okay, Jennifer, anything to add, any questions? For
Yeah, I think Jennifer and Greg
Jennifer's
will
got
come
a-
up.
Thanks, Megan.
Mhm.
Y'all have a remote, or they're gonna say next slide?
You're just gonna say next slide.
No problem. Okay, so
Hi, everybody. We wanted to give you a little bit of an update about what's been going on with virus activity. I know that you've seen quite a bit of it. But I'll talk a little bit about where things are, and then Greg will talk about the work that the control team has been doing. So, this is what the southwestern US looks like right now. This is from two sources, both maps.vectorserve.org, as well as the Southern Nevada Health District. So right now in the state, there are 269 positive samples for mosquito samples with West Nile and 10 with St. Louis encephalitis virus. A little bit lower over in Arizona, which is great for them. And then you'll see that Las Vegas, all by itself, has quite a bit of virus activity. With our next slide, I'll remind you that this is what we're looking at on a routine basis. These are the factors that translate into us having more or less virus in a particular area. With a reminder that the district does not yet control the weather, but we do control where there are positive mosquito samples and where there are more mosquitoes. And so that's where you see our team focus on a routine basis. Which means that on our next slide, we can see that this is what the risk looks like for West Nile virus within the Coachella Valley right now, with red being the worst and yellow being the best place that you want to be. You can see around La Quinta is not a very good place right now. It is the most risk that we have for virus transmission. That is due to both the number of mosquitoes that we've been capturing in our traps, but also the fact that we are catching positive mosquito samples there for the past few weeks. So on our next slide, reminder that having virus positive mosquito samples does mean a lot of work by everybody at the district, from the lab team who's checking the pesticides and see how well they're working and doing extra traps to help provide additional information about where there are positive samples, to the operations team that does a lot of work for controlling those adult mosquitoes and putting out signs so that people can recognize that they're in an area with increased risk, to the public outreach team that puts out community events and does press releases and a lot of work. So a reminder that, as you all know, that there's a lot of things that go on when we see positive samples. So on our next slide, I'm really hopeful that we've hit our peak for virus activity. This first graph over here is the number of virus positive samples, with the red line being this year and the gray being their 5-year average. So you can see we're much higher than we normally would like to see, but we finally have hit a peak and we're going down. So really hopeful that that is staying. The other really nice thing about this graph on the right side, you can see on the top are the rural mosquitoes and on the bottom are the city mosquitoes. Both of those numbers are going down, as they should be. Our rural mosquitoes have dropped below our 5-year average, which is great. That's because it's too hot for mosquitoes, just like it's too hot for people. Our city mosquitoes are also dropping all the things that we'd like to see at this time of year. So very briefly, we're going to see a series of maps, which this is where we are for this point in the year. 155 positive mosquito samples, not counting what was detected today, with a lot of it being around the Salton Sea and a little bit through some of the cities, but most of it being there in La Quinta. You'll see across the bottom kind of where we are. So as a reminder for the next few slides, we have first where we were the last time we spoke. We had captured a lot of virus positive mosquito samples by the Salton Sea. And the advancing of the slide will show that we responded by doing a ULV application at the first part of the week, and then a second ULV application at the end of that week. One more. There we go. To capture where all of those positive samples were. The following week, we detected our high point of 52 positive samples this week. You can see a lot of it on the West Shore, and that first real indication of what was going on in La Quinta. And that led to us doing additional work. We then caught 14 more positive samples. We were having a lot of wind, which made it difficult to do a ULV application until this week, which, when Megan advances, should bring up doing truck mounted ULV in the communities of La Quinta. When we move to the week of the holiday, we then see that we did capture some additional positive samples, 16 positive samples there in the North Shore area and the community of La Quinta, which led to an additional round of ULV treatments to combat those adult mosquitoes. And then I think, Megan, if you go one more time, we were in the middle of a round of applications there this week as well. So finally, as a reminder, this is the past 3 weeks. So you can see we kind of have 3 big hotspots right now. Community of La Quinta, the West Shore area and the North Shore area. And with that, Greg's gonna highlight the additional work that his team's been doing to combat these mosquitoes.
Hey Jennifer, when you say hot, what is hot to a mosquito?
Hot to a mosquito. To a larval mosquito, 90 degrees of water is hot, which happens when you get really shallow water. You can make it hot enough that they can't live in it. I forgot these slides, Greg, I'm sorry. Hot for an adult mosquito, I don't know, it feels like it's like when the nighttime temperatures stay at like 90-ish, we start to really see our drop in adult mosquitoes. So that seems to be kind of hot for a mosquito. These last 2 slides, you probably saw in the news that nationally in the US, we're talking a lot about dengue. And of course, we're concerned because we know there was local transmission in California last year. The reason we're talking so much about dengue is because on the next slide, this is what dengue looks like in the US. It is we have had many more human cases this year than we did last year. This is really due to what's been going on in Puerto Rico over on the side. There is a lot of local transmission that's been happening in Puerto Rico, and that typically translates to people leaving Puerto Rico because they've been on a cruise and they come back home into the US, and then they are now a travel case wherever they come home to in the US. Jeremy and I were on calls today, and we do know that our colleagues over here in Orange County and in LA have been having more travel cases this year than they typically have at this point in the year. And so it is something to be aware of. It is something that we're likely to hear more about as we move through this mosquito season. And this is why Greg's team and so many others are doing so much work with Aedes aegypti, is that we want to keep those populations low for when people are traveling in, so that we can reduce the risk for dengue transmission. I think this really is the last slide, Greg. I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, I am right. Yay.
Okay, Jennifer, as Jennifer stated, we have done quite a bit of work in all parts of the city, including the shoreline. The shoreline has been the busiest area with area applications or boots on the ground, in a drone team going out routinely to make applications on those sites. So more or less, this is when we get the detection, we'll conduct enhanced surveillance and the team within the mile buffer from the project detection. As Jennifer mentioned, with poster signs, this is just some pictures of the technicians on the field doing some work. Where viruses are mainly placed around positive locations. Next slide, please. So in addition to the work that the technicians are doing, we also plan our ground UOV, which is our front mounted UOV. Just in response to the ongoing detection and the Quinta Trilogy, and then the North communities on Trilogy. So we've done 6 applications there so far. We're in the process of actually doing 3 additional more. We started out this morning, and we'll complete the next two nights. But so far, the ones that we have completed are from June 22nd to 24th, and then June 29th to July 1st. Those are the ones that we've done so far. Again, we are going 3 missions. We started this morning. We covered roughly about 5,700 acres, and the applications are typically at 2 a.m. For different reasons, public presence and presence of adult mosquitoes. Next slide, please. As mentioned, in addition to the work that we're doing with the helicopter, the ground UOV trucks, we also have our drone team who has been going and doing these applications routinely, and also assisting the technicians with areas that are hard to access. So far since June 11th, since our last board meeting, we've done 310 acres surrounding the areas with other detections, and also using about 2,900 pounds of products. In addition to all this, we also have a team doing area applications with our ranger. This is being done to vegetation near the traps that came back positive, or any potential resting adults or adult site. It's the vegetation. The mosquitoes will land on the vegetation and will come in contact with the product, and that would potentially, build up. This is just the image of our monitors that we installed in our equipment. The green is just illustrating the areas that were barrier, and the red is when the application equipment was not applying. So that's more or less what we've done. The next slide, the team is continuing to do the work as we go, as positive texts come to our attention. We release the team as soon as 24 hours. They go out and they do an amazing job, as Jerry mentioned. This is dealing not only with mosquitoes and virus, but the weather also plays a big part. We are trying to keep the public safe, but also keeping our employees safe. So it's something of a balance. And with that, I'll take any questions. Unless there's anything else from Jerry.
I just had a couple on the public information link. We just continue to be out in the community, postings, using social media. Next door, in particular in the areas where Quinta has a good presence, so that's been very helpful. We do press releases, knowing we have new cities, new areas. Our liaisons, Robert, Diana is one of our liaisons. He's been doing full bore, and which is one of our affected areas, CD Unified School District. He's been in all the summer school classes for all the elementary schools, 6 classes a day. He's seeing kids, and he sleeps at night. Because he's been doing that day in, day out, but it's a good audience, because that's where we have a lot of virus activity, and those kids absorb that type of information. Another piece that we've been doing, we go out all the community areas, so one of the other liaisons, Fernando Gutierrez, out to many of the areas in the East Valley, La Quinta, won't list them all, but Motor Coach, outdoor resorts in Indio, go to the local markets, wellness centers, La Quinta Library, teen centers, senior centers, Apple Market, Chapala. Get out to the Torres Martinez tribe, again, another area that's affected, and did last week, but visiting a lot of our field workers, our migrant workers that are working the okra fields. Been in the okra field before. It's hot, nasty, and mosquito-y, so he was pulling over the side of the road, talking with those workers, hanging out, repellent, and
And okra is itchy.
and okra's itchy, yeah, so, so between social media, getting out there, boots hitting the ground, and also working with the kids, I think they're continuing to make an impact and educating and help people protect themselves.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions? Now I move on to legal counsel.
I have nothing to report, other than, it's a pleasure to be here, and
Okay, pleasure might be questioned.
Okay, with that then, we will move into closed session and
Yeah, we wouldn't want Brad Anderson. to-
yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you. We'll turn to legal counsel to report out. Closed session.
Sarah in.
And that's.
I don't know if she was that. You actually came out. Okay, this is the report out from closed session. Conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, agency designated representatives, Lena D. Wade, Crystal Moreno, and David Lansone. Employee organizations, California School Employees Association, and Teamsters Local 911. No reportable action.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Until September,
Until September.
as we move.
Well,
So moved.
okay, what's the second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Done.
Well,
Yes.
Yes.